Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live as every Wednesday at 11 in the morning. Today, I have the honor to share the studio with Bobby. Bobby, welcome.
Well, thanks, Andrea. Thanks for calling. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thanks to Orlando.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice.
Right, I got it. Right, I got it. I'm
He's
supposed
busy
to
today.
send him
He
some
has
money.
a
Thanks.
special assignment today. So he called me yesterday, last minute, and I was like, okay, Bobby will save the date.
I came to save the day, so we'll see how it goes. But I always love being here, and I appreciate the call. I got to tell Orlando I appreciate it, but I love what you guys do. I mean, this is really good, and now people are getting a sense of our candidates that are out there. We've got some good, strong folks running, representing a Latino heritage and a message of conservative values. And I think it's just great. And more people need to hear about that. So I'm happy to help.
Well, Bobby, thank you so much because last year we invited you to be part of the show as a guest. And then now you are part of the family.
Yeah.
Now you're helping us in Leadership Latino, bringing the message, sending the message to everybody that attend Leadership Latino, how to communicate, how to deal with media, and and how to be in front of camera. And this is something very important. That's a good skills to have no matter what. Either you run for office or you run a company or just in your regular life. It's really good skills to have how to talk in camera, how to speak in public. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I love it. You mentioned Leadership Latino. We'll talk about it more at the end of the program. But folks, you should watch the whole show today because it's going to be good. But Leadership Latino, when we talk about it at the end, as Andrea is saying, it's a chance to really learn skills if you want to be a candidate or if you want to jump into public service or service of any kind. Being in front of the camera and talking with the media and just public speaking is a skill that everyone can use and benefit from. And I enjoy teaching it. We have a lot of fun. We kind of put the audience under a little pressure. So it's a good time.
And this is, it's very important when you run for office because media is going to be everywhere. Not only the traditional media, but also social media. Now we use the phones as a camera.
Right.
And people sometimes they get intimidated and they don't know how to talk. And that's very important when you're going to send a message. And media can be very rude sometimes.
Right, yeah, exactly. They can be really rude, and you have to be on your guard for that. But you also have to be prepared. Like you said, we're in a different age where you seldom have the traditional press conference anymore.
Yeah.
You might call that, but you might be at a public event and say something that you shouldn't, but all of a sudden someone has an iPhone and they've made a video. It's now up on Facebook or YouTube, and it's going viral for something you said. You didn't mean to say it. So you should always be aware that any situation you are in as a public figure is a potential press conference. It's
Correct.
a potential video.
And you need to be trained. You need to have the proper trainer. So 2022, this year is very important because we have midterm elections.
Right.
And we are around the corner with the primaries. And the primaries meaning that we're going to vote for the party nomination, meaning the Republican Party or the Democratic Party nomination for each candidate. So the early voting started on February 14, which is a Valentine's. It's going to be, we need to be in love that day
That's
also.
right. Love your candidates. Come on
love
out.
your candidate. We need
That's
to
right.
fall in love with the candidate to early voting. It's going to be February 14th till the 25th. And then the elections, the primary election is going to be March 1st this year. So saying that, we need to fall in love with our candidates. How do we fall in love with our candidates? We need to get to know them.
Absolutely.
It's like any relationship.
Exactly. This is our time to field our team, to put our team together. So this is the time to really look through all of the Republican candidates, make your choices, because that team that comes out of March, or if there happens to be runoffs after that, that's our team that takes on the Democrats, takes on the liberal left that has gotten so radical. It's up to all of us. And so this is where, as you said, you love your candidates, go out and support them, walk the precincts, go door to door, do phone banks for your candidate, because you want them to be part of the team that goes against the Democrats.
Correct.
In November.
And it's very, very important to get to know them because sometimes, the traditional media don't expose all the candidates, and we need to do our own homework, and that's why TLC Live comes in place, that we present you guys, we introduce you the candidates, and they have a platform here to tell you why they're running for office, what is their background, and these days, Bobby, as we've been seeing in all the news, more Latinos are running for office, and more people that doesn't have any political background are running for office. And today we are honored to have their time of three of the candidates, and one
That's
is
right.
Roland Lopez. He's running for U.S. Congress in Texas in the 38th position, and also Kelvin Goodwin-Castillo. He is for U.S. Congress also in the District 30, that is around Dallas. And also we have Pastor Richard Vega. He's running for Harris County Precinct 2 for the Republican nomination. They all running for the Republican nomination in their each position. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with us. We have them, we're showing their websites, and also they are here with us connecting via our link. So we're gonna start with Roland, and Roland Lopez. He's a businessman, but you're gonna talk more about your background, Roland. But a couple of weeks ago, I got a call from one of my dear friend, and she was like, "Hey, I know you guys always in TLC are promoting their candidates, and I was just attending a political event for this guy that he has a Hispanic background, and I want to pass you the information." So that's how I contact Roland. So Roland, welcome to TLC.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
So tell us about your background, and I don't think you have a political background, but you have a lot of experience in the in business field.
Yeah, so I mean, real quick, I'm originally from McAllen, Texas, the border town, so I know the RGV sector very, very well, and what's gone down there. And the guys that are in the front line, they're taking a beating, but keep up to date with what's going on. Obviously, it's a very difficult situation, as we all know. But grew up in McAllen, put myself through school, academic scholarship. I played collegiate baseball. Just had those homegrown leadership skills, throughout my career. Moved up in the ranks in the corporate world, as you said. Haven't been in politics other than I've been an election judge, but other than that, I've been through the process, but never as a legislator or politics in general. And I actually carry that as a badge of honor. I became going up in the ranks in the corporate arena, became a CFO for a small energy services company. And one of the skill sets that I think, as far as leadership skills go in running companies at that level, is that you actually really become responsible in the sense that I'm a fiduciary for shareholders and investors for a company, private or public. And those same skill sets I want to actually translate. I think they're very translatable into the legislature, where you're a fiduciary for taxpayer dollars. And once again, just growing up in the ranks, moving up the hard way, pure merit, nothing else. I never had a chip on my shoulder. Where there's your will, there's your way. That's how I've climbed up in the corporate arena, and that's how I've gotten to where I'm at today.
So, Roland, tell us why you decide to run for office. You're being in the corporate arena, you're being a businessman, other than being a judge in elections. Why you decide to run for office?
Well, Andrea, I was looking at our landscape. I have three beautiful children, and I look at generations to come, and I truly think that if you look at the current landscape, it's extremely scary. The overtake, the grab of power. And I sat down. I remember we're going to do some videos to try to get the name out and my message. And I sat down, and I'm not a writer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a numbers guy, as you guys, as I just kind of like divulged in my experience and background. But I sat down, and this came up to me, and I honestly think it's a hand of God, because like I said, I'm not a writer at all. But I kind of sat down and wrote, America's on a path of no return if we don't hold on to the reins of reason and guide her back to freedom, prosperity, and quite honestly, sanity. I saw the landscape of our country, and I saw the insanity that's going on. And I truly wanted to go back to our founding principles. And that's the, guiding us back, Lady Liberty, back to those freedoms that we had, our founding fathers, those principles and values that I grew up with. And these are the things that really I see our country in peril. I mean, you look at immigration, you look at inflation, you look at, everything that's surrounding that's not going good, the mandates. And it's just, our country is in peril. And I think we truly need constitutional conservatives that will actually have a backbone and go to DC with no special interest attached. I've had a successful career. I'm 51 years old. I don't have to do this, but I see my kids and future generations, and I wanted to act. I wanted to step up and do something.
Hey, Roland, Bobby Eberly here. I was looking at your website and I noticed your Meet the Candidate video, which I thought was really well done, by the way. But you dive into 4 issues specifically. You got border security and energy independence and voter integrity and Second Amendment. How are those issues resonating out there as you're talking to voters and trying to get them on board with your campaign?
It's hitting home. I mean, the only thing I probably changed in recent times with the Second Amendment, we now have a constitutional carry here in Texas. So I've actually moved up human and child trafficking. So those are probably some of the main issues that I really want to get into. But I mean, border security, it affects everybody. And like I said in my video, it not only affects Texas, but it affects the United States. When you have an influx of 200,000 a month and we have no control, this is getting out of control. And I said in the video, it's exhausting our own resources. If you look at Del Rio, they have an exhaustion of their own resources. If you want to call an ambulance, it's almost impossible if you have the influx of 200,000 people being serviced by the resources that every city and municipality have for their own people. So as I said in the video, our citizens are secondary in nature, and that's truly tragic. And I also had the fortune of talking to Tom Homan, ex-ICE director. And he said there's 3 simple loophole fixes for immigration. There's the asylum rule. Truly looking at it, and I think we're kind of getting there, but whether the Biden administration actually implements it, is the stay in Mexico policy, I don't know that will happen. But the asylum rule is actually going through a proper vetting process. And those 200,000, well over 2 million this past year, is what we caught. So, I mean, that's part of the battle. The second thing on closing some of these loopholes is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. So that's one of the 3 that I didn't know well. But what that does is it covers, trafficking victims, and, it actually evaluates the ability to say, hey, are you a trafficking victim? If it is, we actually want to safeguard you. We want to keep you safe. But other than that, if they go through the vetting process and they're not, we can send anybody from Canada and Mexico back immediately. But if you're from anywhere else around the world, you go through like a couple-year process. We need to actually make the rules the same for everybody, and we want to protect the victims more than anything. And then the last one was the Florida Settlement Agreement, and that was just an atrocity. What that does is it actually takes the agreement for coming into the United States, evaluating them, and what Mr. Holman said, he wrote a brief. He asked the judge, and this was the Ninth Circuit, unfortunately. He asked the judge to say, hey, you know what, we need about 45 days, and we can process these heavy influxes. And what happened is the Judge G, obviously from the Ninth Circuit, very liberal, came back and said, no, we're going to give you 20 days. So now we have 20 days to process 200,000, illegal immigrants that are coming in, and we have to process them immediately or we have to release them. And that's what's happening. Now we're just releasing them all around the country, and then you go into, my other issues, the Second Amendment, like I said, that's fine. The human trafficking, that's part of that border security. Mm-hmm. Energy independence, I come from the energy sector. I mean, what people don't realize too is that crude oil and energy that we pull from our resources make up 6,000 products. Oil byproducts create almost everything we touch in our home. If we're going to light switch away to the green energy policy, what's going to happen is what happened in February. We're not going to have a contingency plan. We're not going to be ready for what may happen. I mean, in February, we could have had natural gas reserves as a contingency plan to make sure that the grid was capacitated. We were depending on what the government was mandating us and requiring that 20% of alternative energy, like windmills and things of that nature, supplied our source. And that wasn't feasible. That's just something that we cannot afford. Natural resources that we pull from the ground, crude oil, natural gas, are the most reliable resources. And one of the things I kind of, a little bit in gist talk about is how many Teslas do you see in the barrio? Can they afford a $90,000 car? And then ultimately, when they put the electric car in the plug, guess where that electricity comes from? Fossil fuels. coal-fired plants and things like that. And then lastly, voter integrity. I mean, you guys saw it. It's an absolute disaster. We need controls, but this is one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to over legislate. This is a state's issue. This is 10th Amendment. We've got to keep control within our own state and actually make sure that they're mandated and implemented within our counties.
Yeah, but Roland, you forgot that our transportation secretary said that after you buy the $90,000 car, you'll save $500 on gas and stuff. So
I mean, isn't that great? And once again, the energy
Right.
sources that produce electricity still come from fossil fuels. It's amazing. Yeah.
it's nuts. I want to ask you one question about your district. Because of the
Yeah.
census and because of redistricting, we now have a new district. And this is going to take us, it looks like, one step closer to regaining control of the House. It's looking really good. So the fight here is in the primary, and I believe we've
Absolutely.
got 10 candidates, including you. So what sets you apart in this district that the winner come March or a runoff is likely going to be the next congressman?
There's two main components that I look at. Number one, actually maybe three. Personal leadership skills. Once again, those are translatable in how I legislate. One, I want to serve the people. That's one thing that I think a lot of people go in with different intentions into Congress. I truly want to serve, and actually, I've always said this. I actually want to be the George Washington of Texas, and that is, he was offered to, after his great victory as a general, he was offered to come back and be the president. He was for 2 terms, and they asked him to keep on coming again, and he said no. All we're doing is giving what we left a different flavor. I actually want to serve my country in this capacity, and I want to return to my Mount Vernon, which is a little ranchito in Central Texas. That's what I want to do. I want to serve, give back, and go back home. I think that the opportunity here is that this is an ultra conservative district, and you're right. This election is going to occur in the primary, and what I see advantages of, one, we've got an anointed person already that the DC establishment already picked, and that guy's well funded. And I see this district is very, very conservative, faith based, and you know what? It even has a 26% Latino population. I want to go to the Latino community and remind everybody where our roots came from. Those commonalities of faith, family, and then ultimately the pocketbook. Right now, they're getting hurt by Biden's inflation. And what I say, he brags about nobody under 400,000 will get taxed. Well, you know what? The average Latino is getting taxed every day with inflation. That's a blue collar tax that nobody's talking about, and is it hitting home? So these are the things and policies besides my leadership skills that I truly want to translate, all this bureaucracy and legislation, be efficient in the government. And that's going to be another mountain to climb, I know, when I get to Congress. But you know what? If we have strong, backbones, very strong conservatives with strong values, we will grow in numbers, and then we will start taking our country back.
Well, Roland, we're going to come back with you during the show, but now from
Sure.
District 38, we're going to go to District 30, and this is Kelvin Goodwin-Castillo. He's running for U.S. Congress in District 30, that is around Dallas, for the Republican nomination. Kelvin, good morning, and thanks for being with us today.
Buenos dias. Thank you, everybody, for having me this morning.
Yep.
Buenos dias, and let's start with your background and what is your story about your Goodwin-Castillo. So of course you have a Latino background too.
So, I'm a product of the real American dream. I was born in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, in a small village called Constanza.
Wow,
Yeah.
Caribeño.
And, yeah, and I moved to the United States a few years after I was born. I was adopted by an American family, and that's where the Goodwin comes from. So I was born in Castillo, and my adopted parents, their last name is Goodwin. And I remember, my father always tells a story about when I first came to America. I came in December, and in my village where I'm from, we didn't have clothes. So my first set of clothes I got was from my adopted parents, and I was left out of church when I was a baby, and the church raised me until I was adopted. And my father always tells a story about when I came to America in December. I didn't like wearing shoes. And I'll tell you, I learned really quickly running out in the snow with no shoes on, because it was my first time ever seeing snow. And he likes to tell people the difference of growing up in the Dominican Republic and then when people transplant to the United States and they never experience, you know, snow. That's something that sticks in my mind. And growing up, I had, I had to learn English. My father and my mother, they're both come from European ancestry, and I was I don't want to say a problem child, but I had a lot of energy. Growing up on coffee beans and sugar, and coming to the States, my parents had to learn to try to weed me off of coffee. And a funny story of how they did that was they gave me coffee when I was a kid, and they started slowly diluting it with milk so that I would eventually stop drinking coffee and I started drinking milk and water. Um, and one of the things that really sets me apart from a lot of people is my story. Um, I grew up playing baseball like a lot of Dominicans. I'm sure you know who Sammy Sosa is. He's also from my
Of
village.
course.
Of course, yes.
Uh, I mean, he looks a lot different than he did back in the day, but it's all right.
We all look
You know,
different.
Right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I still think I look 25, but it's okay. um, you know, the biggest thing that I have going for me, especially for District 30, is my leadership. I've raised my hand 4 times in my life to defend the United States Constitution and God. Once as a Boy Scout, I'm an Eagle Scout. I went through the entire ranks of the scouting, and one of the first part of the Scout oath is on my honor. I'll do my best to do my duty to God and country. And then the second time I raised my hand was when I joined the United States Army at the age of 16. I was 16. It was during the second invasion of Iraq. And my mom and dad had to sign for me just so I can join the military. And I remember my mom saying, "Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this?" I said, "Because I love America. I love the virtues. I love, the national anthem. I love everything about America. And I wanted to go to fight. I wanted to fight for the democracy. I wanted to fight for the Constitution. I wanted to fight for the independence." And I served my country, and I was discharged honorably from the United States Army back in 2014. And from there, I raised my hand again and swore an oath and allegiance to America, and I became a federal agent. I worked on matters of national security that provided safety for every American, both domestically and abroad. And then after that, I decided that I want to do more for the community. So I became a business owner. I went into the criminal investigation world in the private sector, and I became the CEO of one of the largest growing criminal investigation firms here in Dallas and across the East Coast. And after many years of serving the people in that capacity, and I still am the CEO of the company, I decided to raise my hand again to go to Congress, to work for the people. And I say the people because we are all Americans, regardless of political party. And what I have seen in these last 2 years is the fabric of our democracy being torn apart by the liberal left and the socialists. And it hurts me inside because I see people in my community struggling and I hear their voices. I've talked about roughly 15,000 people just here in my district. And out of those 15,000 people, about 14,000 are Democrats. And out of those 14,000 Democrats, about 13,000 are flipping to vote in the Republican Party this November. And when I hear people say that, when I listen to these Democrats in my district say that they're going to flip to the party of parents, the party of the Constitution, and the party of freedom, it warms my heart, and I know that we are starting to hear them. And I want every Latino, every Latina, I want you to know that I hear you. And if you think that your voice and your vote does not count, I have one thing that I can say to you. Si se puede. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. We can do this. I hear you, and I'm going to go to Congress for you.
Hey, Kelvin, I wanted to get into your background a little bit and how that contrasts with what you're seeing in the district. And, you're talking about radical socialists and the Democrats. I mean, you've got this MP background in the Army and then private security, and it's clear your love of country comes through in everything you say. So how do you contrast this kind of upbringing with this talk that the radical Democrats are doing about defunding the police and making areas less safe? I mean, how does that affect you, and how does that motivate you in this campaign?
Well, with my years in law enforcement, in the military, then as a federal agent, and now protecting victims and investigating crimes against children and women and men and families, the Democrats are flipping right now from the defund the police. And it was a terrible policy or whatever you want to call it, because we need to enforce the standards. We need to enforce the laws. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to go to Congress to create new laws. We don't need to create new laws. We need to enforce the laws that are currently there. We have law enforcement that are not being supported. And the people in my district, they're seeing it. There are districts throughout Texas and across the liberal states that their own neighborhood watch, they're hiring their own security because police officers don't want to go to those neighborhoods because law enforcement is not supported. The people in my community, they're saying that we need law enforcement. Even the Democrats are saying that, because what people don't realize is when you're getting carjacked in the middle of the street and there are no police, who are you going to call? You're going to call a Beto who wants to take your guns? You're going to take away the rights to defend yourselves and your family? And that's what people are scared about. They're scared about the defunding the police movement, having less police officers on the force, and less people wanting to step forward and become a police officer. We need to curb crime. Dallas is rated the sixth most violent city in America. The sixth. Think about that for a minute. The sixth most violent city in America. And that's that the root of that cause is not supporting law enforcement and having liberal DAs who will not prosecute crimes and saying, you know what, maybe next time. If you look at a lot of the crime that's occurring in today's society and right here in Dallas, a lot of it could be curbed if we supported law enforcement and if we had district attorneys and we had judges that actually upheld the rule of law, the fabric, the pillars of our society. That is what we need, and that is how we're going to solve the crime issues.
Yeah, one follow up on that. You're in CD30, so it is. You're going to be hitting the moderate Democrats and the hardcore Democrats, and trying to make a difference. Gallup just had a poll out a couple days ago that shows the biggest swing that they've seen in decades of people identifying as Republican instead of Democrats. Are you seeing that in the streets and in your discussions, not with just defund the police, but other issues as well?
Absolutely. I'm seeing, so with our internal polling, we're seeing about 71% of Hispanics are now flipping to the Republican Party just because of this last year with Joe Biden in the White House. They are seeing the crushing blows of inflation. They're seeing the crushing blows of parents' rights being taken away from them. I believe that our numbers are about 82% of the Hispanics that are in District 30, they are families. They have children. And when the government is calling them terrorists or domestic terrorists because they want to speak up and they don't want pornography in the classrooms because parents want to have a say in what is being taught. I was actually in that boat. I am a father of an 11-year-old child, and we removed them from the public school system and put them in a Christian school because of the CRT, because of the inability of parents being able to have a say in the education. And that's what we need to do. We need to bring the rights back to the American people.
Yeah, totally agree. And I loved your story. I am from Colombia, so I love your story coming from Dominican Republic, a country that I need to visit. I haven't been there, but I always hear beautiful things. And you see all these beautiful pictures and videos from over there. So I love your story. And something that is, it touched our heart when we coming from Latin America, it's seeing we're running away exactly for what we're seeing that is happening in this country. And we know exactly what is the movie over there already. It's a scary movie.
Right.
And I hate to see this in this country. And when you were talking about, I love this country and I'm doing this, everything that I'm doing is because I love this country. And I love this country so much, probably as much or more than I love my own country, because I came to this country for better opportunities, because this is the land of opportunities. I started family here. I'm raising my kids here. I brought my parents from Colombia. I love this country so much. And it's so sad seeing what is going on in this country and seeing that this is what my kids gonna, growing up.
Right.
And this is what my kids gonna be seeing. And how do we fight this? And it takes a village in Texas so far is still conservatives, but we're seeing these people moving from California, from New York, from Illinois, and I'm afraid that they're gonna bring all of those things that they're running away from something, but they're bringing it.
Right, they still bring it here
I
too,
know.
and what you said, it's oh my gosh, it's so moving and it's so emotional when you see that, for generations now, people have fled oppression. They
Yeah.
know what it's like to be oppressed, and where do they go? They go to the United States, and now once they get here, this generation is seeing the radical left taking over, and
Yeah.
they're wondering, well, this isn't the America that I talked about or I was told about, and we need to bring that back.
And I don't know how to translate this. Maybe you help me, Kelvin. We say in Spanish, una cosa es libertad y otra cosa es libertinaje. Like one thing, it's like we liked freedom, but another thing is just be completely out of that freedom. I mean, like crossing boundaries. Um, I mean, the freedom or the idea of freedom these days is completely different of what the real concept of freedom. And these days is libertinaje. People are like, oh, I don't identify with this or I don't identify with
Right.
this. And I was born a man, but I don't know if,
Right, they want to put back the
like,
policies that these people escaped from.
yeah.
Right, it's just
It,
outrageous.
it's crazy. We're gonna come back with you, Kelvin, during the show. But I want to introduce our next guest because, Kelvin, you were talking about the crime rate, you were talking about the violence in your district, and this is something that we're facing here in Harris County. And I believe that's one of the reasons that our next guest is running for office. He's running for Harris County Precinct 2 for the Republican nomination, and he is Pastor Richard Vega. Pastor, bienvenido, welcome. And the most beautiful thing that he has is the wife. She's from Colombia.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. She must be good then,
Of
right? Yeah,
course.
exactly, exactly.
Pastor, welcome to TLC Live.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm honored.
We were at your event a couple of days ago, and it was
Oh,
a
oh,
lot of
great.
people attending to their event, and that's where
Okay,
I met
right.
the beautiful Colombian wife.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was very your words during your speech, and now seeing church are getting into politics, and that get my attention. So let's start first with your background and why you decide to run for office.
Yeah, I grew up right here in Precinct 2. Joined the United States Army. I served for 4.5 years. Got injured, and I went to college when I got out and joined the United States Postal Service. I worked there for a little over 10 years. Felt the calling on my life that God wanted more for me, and so I decided to step away from the Postal Service and go into full time ministry. And I'm grateful that I did. Pastor Vega has been serving the community well over a decade. Just in this decade here in Houston, we've gone through a lot of different transitions. We've gone through Harvey, we've gone through obviously the pandemic, we've gone through story time with a drag queen, sex robots, and obviously we're going through the crime issues that we're having. I've been able to go up and combat story time with the drag queen in the city of Houston, as well as the sex robots trying to come to Houston. I've gone to the the state capital of Texas, and partnered up with State Representative Valerie Swanson. She was the co-author of the bill of Save the Girls Sports. We went out there several times and lobbied. I took groups out there to try to get that bill passed. I even took it one step further. I went to the Constitutional Rights Committee to testify on why we should protect young girls in sports. Why I would have to do that, I'm not sure, but that's the place of the world in which we live in. You guys were just hitting it. You take somebody who wants to identify themselves as a girl, and then they're able to get on a varsity squad sports, and clearly, genetically, they are stronger, they're faster, they get more oxygen in their lung capacity. It it leaves the girls with no scholarships. They're not able to perform so they can go to the next level. What are we sending a message to the young girls? What are we taking away from them? This was very dear to my heart. I have daughters. I have a
Yeah.
mother. I have a wife. I have nieces, and I have a sister. And so I felt that we needed to go and testify to the Constitutional Rights Committee. We did. We got that passed, and that was just in the last 4 months. Also, whenever Texas got subpoenaed by the U.S. Supreme Court, where they only had 9 days to prepare. Ken Paxton and his team, Attorney General Ken Paxton, me and my team, and I was invited. One of the pastors picked, allowed to go out to the U.S. Supreme Court with the Ken Paxton's team and go out there and be a part of that in support of the heartbeat bill, which is also dear to me. One thing that I keep telling the church is to make sure that we get out there and vote biblically. Roland hit it spot on. Latinos have very conservative values. It's just been not voting with that conservatism, or not allowing our Christian values to be involved in our voting. Years and years ago, there was a false teaching that had gone around in the churches that said there's a separation of church and state, when that's not in our Constitution nor in the Bill of Rights. It was simply a letter from Thomas Jefferson. And they used that as a tool of the enemy to be able to frame minds that there is a separation of church and state. And there's not. We're to be involved in education. We're to be doctors. We're to be lawyers. We're to be in government. We're to be local leaders, right? We are the church. The body as a whole should be involved. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, right in the end of March in 2020, I was sitting on my couch and I was just praying, and my heart started really grieving for the children, because I know my community very well. I've worked in our community a lot. You do a lot of community outreaches, from back to school bashes, doing over 1,000 backpacks each year with school supplies, being able to serve our veterans, cooking over 100 smoked turkeys and delivering all those out to those veterans, being able to do multiple different outreaches or community engagements. During Harvey, we were able to, at one location, I was set up and did major distribution. In the first 11 days, we were able to feed over 33,000 people. I had over 10 18-wheelers coming in with material goods to get out to the people. In our community, we didn't have the electricity for 6 days. So logistically, trying to get these generators in there, fuel in there, to make sure our community had what they needed was very vital. Done multiple hurricane reliefs and things like that. But during the pandemic, when I was sitting on my couch just praying, my heart started grieving for these children, because it's unfortunate situation, but the reality of the world that we live in, not every parent uses the food stamps cards the way they should. And so I started immediately thinking about the children that only receive their meals at school. And I was like, oh my goodness, these babies, the grocery stores are starting to close down. Everything's shutting down. There's no food. And so I reached out to the Houston Food Bank. We were able to set up a food distribution immediately. In the very first week of April of the pandemic, we fed over 2,500 people just in that one food distribution. From there, it led to the next 5 months. The next 5 months, we were ground and pound, as we call it in the Army. We set up multiple distribution sites throughout Precinct 2, where we were rooted in every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, and some Sundays. We were able to deliver food to over 60,000 families. That's over 100,000 families that we were able to touch right here in our community, and just let them know you're not in this alone. You think about those numbers on how many people we actually engaged with and that we saw weekly. Some of these guys, we saw them Tuesday and Friday because they would come. The people that were coming through the line and heartbroken because they've just lost a loved one to COVID, right? And now all of us have known someone or lost family members from COVID. We understand the dynamics, but in the early stages, it was very hit home, hit my heart, because these people are coming. They don't have no family here. They've lost their husband, their wife, they lost their son. They can't go to the hospital and sit with their loved one. So we had to be the church. We had to be the community leaders and step up and engage with these people and say, hey, you know what? We're here with you. You're not alone. We're going to be here with you. Here's our phone number. You can call us and reach out to us, and we're here to serve. And so that's one of the biggest things that I'm a servant. And I've seen a lot of issues here in Harris County, as you mentioned, and our crime has gone through the roof. In the last 2 years, the murder rate is up 80%. Now, just think about that. We're not talking about robberies. We're not talking about vandalism. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about murders,
Yeah.
people losing their lives, 80% increase. This is a complete failure of our current administration of commissioners court who is running it, who's democratic led, and is failing our communities at the highest level. They have defunded our police officers. If you talk to all the local law enforcement, they all need to be able to hire more police officers. They all need to better gear, equipment. But the truth of the reality of it is that the media has done a number on our police officers, taking the control from our police officers, allowing our police officers to do what they need to do. So there's a mass retirement. It's not a desirable employment for the youth or for the younger generation, right? You have police officers that are scared to perform their duties. And you think about when you call a police officer now, obviously they have cameras on, but now they're wondering if they can arrest you properly. They're not sure if their training was right. They don't want to be on the headline news. I mean, all this stuff that they're battling mentally is I know it's the world we live in, but it's not okay. They're there to protect and serve us. I don't know about you, but when I call 911 or if I call to have a police officer come out to my home, I don't want him in 4 or 5 hours. I want him now.
Right.
That call is a now call, right?
That's why it's an emergency.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
We want a great response time, and that's just the truth. And to say that a police department needs to hire 30 more officers, another police department needs to hire almost 70 more officers. What is that saying to our community? The current commissioner's court has taken away an upwards of $20 million away from local law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
And they say, and they'll tell you, we took it away
Opening COVID hospitals.
Yeah.
opening COVID hospital, $60 million. Are you
Uh-huh.
serious?
Yeah.
$60 million wasted on these hospitals when it could have gone back to our local law enforcement. Our
Yeah.
education system is obviously broken as well. There's a lot of fixing to do here in Harris County, and I could go on and on and on. But at the end of the day, I'm a servant. I've had enough. I got fed up. I've never ran for political office, but I said, you know what? I've always been an individual to go in there and try to create change. If you look at all the different events that I've done over the years, adopting over 400 homeless kids. That's very strategic in how we do it. They got to be homeless. We work with the strategic organizations to make sure that's happened. I also sit on the board for a human trafficking organization. Thank you, Roland, for your platform and making sure that that Harris County is taking off the #1 spot. Again, a complete failure. I also sit on the board for an alcohol and drug rehabilitation center. And then I also sit on the board for a Christian organization as well. And so we oversee a whole lot in these different organizations. So I understand the numbers. I understand business. I understand budget. I understand getting the job done. And I understand what it takes.
Hey, Richard, I've got a question, kind of this intersection of politics and religion. I'm on the home stretch of working on a theology degree, and obviously I'm a political guy. And so how do you see that when you're talking about things like justice and equality, the common good, and how the left twists that? How can you fight back both as a pastor and as hopefully an elected official?
Right. So here's what I tell the church, okay? Because we battle this in the churches, right? And so in the book of Ephesians, it tells us to stand up for injusticeness, right? And so we should stand up. And I'll take it one step further. If you are a Christian or you are Catholic, you follow Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior. In the book of Exodus, chapter 18, Jethro, which is Moses' father-in-law, tells Moses that he should select a group of men, elect them, right? And these got to be God-fearing. These guys he gives them criteria. He said they got to be God-fearing and righteous according to the laws, right? That have the written laws on the heart of the men to judge and rule over these individuals. right? And so there's a structure there in Exodus 18. You are to elect. Wait a minute. So now the body of Christ is to elect individuals with certain criteria: righteous standing and God fearing. Right now, if we look at Romans 13 verses 1 through 7, it talks about us being submissive to governor authorities. Right now, they want to talk about, well, I don't want to be submissive. Look who's in office. Look who's in that. Well, did you do your part? Because when we do voter registration in the churches, I don't see you coming there to sign up. You're not going to the polls. You're not being vocal. Because if we it'd be a whole lot easier to be submissive according to Romans 13 if we did Exodus 18. And then you're going to hear a lot about, oh, your vote is your voice, right? You hear a lot about that during election time. Well, if you believe that, then you also believe that in Matthew 12, when Jesus says that you will be judged for every foolish thing that comes out of your mouth. So don't you think that it's time for Bible believing individuals, followers of Christ, stand up, unite, and go vote biblically? Get the concept out of your mind of how you feel. And in the book of Job, God clearly tells Job, stand on your feet and answer me like a man. You must have understanding on how he displayed or placed the constellations of the heavens in the atmosphere, right? And the constellation of stars. God never asked me where to put the Smoky Mountains, the Rocky Mountains. He never asked me to put where Texas should be, what type of land there should be there. He didn't ask me anything. So it doesn't matter how I feel. If I'm going to line up my biblical beliefs and values according to Scripture, according to his written rule, then I have to go off of that. And a lot of Latinos, we believe this, and Latinas, right? Our community is built on this foundation of Christ. And so we have to say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to stand for injustice. We're going to stand up for right and wrong. And we're going to get back to biblical values. We clearly see what has happened in the education system. And it's good in a sense, because now you're seeing mama bears that are starting to step up to the plate. They're running for school boards. Praise God for their courage and boldness. But my question is where's the men? When's the men going to start stepping up? And we have this issue in the church, as you know, and that's one of the things we charge our pastors, and we charge all the community pastors that we're engaged with, is to really get out there and say, hey, you should be involved with your local government. You should be involved with your local government. You should work side by side. And let me break it down a little bit more simpler. And I don't know about all churches, but in my church, I am the community outreach pastor. Okay. We are constantly in the community. I know the streets. I know the neighborhoods. I know the people. I can tell you where the worst apartments are. I can tell you where the crime rates are at. I can tell you all of these things. But and like in Harvey, when Harvey hit, okay, we formulated teams. In the first 11 days, we gutted over 400 houses. Okay, think about that. We strategically put teams together to get out in our community and start ripping out sheetrock, start taking out furniture out of the house before all the mildew and everything else started setting in. Right, over 400 and something homes in 11 days. And we can put all our efforts together through our church. Now, my location was 33,000. Our church in general did over 150,000 meals in just the first 11 days after Harvey. Now, that's not including all the rest of the days and the months, the year really that it took for us to get back up on our feet. But the governments of our local and federal took them years to get back into work these things. Don't you think it'd be easier that if the government started working with churches like ours?
Correct.
To say, hey, you know what? You guys could be the rapid response team. Number one, we would save you money because our volunteer force is massive, right? I mean, let's think about this logically. How much money would we save the county or save the federal government if we start using the resources of the community to be able to engage more, to do more for our people? Because you can't tell me if you're for our people, and yet it takes. I'll give you one more thing. In my community, in Precinct 2, which the current seat holder is Adrian Garcia, I have right now 142 houses in my precinct that still have not been rebuilt since Harvey. Now,
Yeah.
listen. Harvey was what, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There,
almost.
there are
Yeah.
That was
individuals.
2017. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's individuals in my community that signed documents from the city of Houston, right? That they wouldn't do any construction on their house. They're living in their house with no sheetrock to this day
Yeah.
because the government, the city government, and the GLO, the land board, weren't able to come to an agreement. Now we know that they wanted to come in and they wanted to rebuild and do all this other stuff on these houses. Okay, and there's been some issues, but now 5 years have gone by. We're in the middle of inflation, so cost of goods have gone up. Now it's harder to get materials for our community. This issue
We
could have
have
been
we have a
resolved.
lot. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. We're running out of time, Pastor Vega, and I want to bring the three of you guys because, as I always said, call to action. We need to encourage our community to vote in the primaries. You know, we have a unfortunately, we have a bad history of our
Right.
community voting in our primaries, especially the Latino community.
That's
So I
right.
want to start with Roland. And what is your call to action? How people can help you, and what to do to encourage our community to participate in the primaries?
Well, first and foremost, like you said, get out and vote. And more importantly, we've got to remind, especially Latinos that historically have been pushed to the Democratic line. We actually need to remind them to go to the Republican line in the primaries because that's where the conservative values are being represented right now. You know, you can go to TexansForLopez.com. We've got block walkers. We're knocking on a couple hundred houses every weekend. We're already on the ground. We've been on the ground since the beginning of the year. So we want people to actually get out there and actually vote, get involved. You can contact me directly at support@TexansForLopez.com and go to my website. You'll know after going through my website, you'll know exactly where I stand on all my issues. And I want to bring the Latino back to the conservative values that we grew up on. And that's what's most important. And like I said, most importantly, vote in the Republican primary. They can instinctively just go to the Democratic line because they see a Lopez and they historically go
Yeah,
there.
that's a great
The
point right
Latinos
there.
are not all
Yeah.
Democrats. We're conservatives as well, and we're on the Republican side.
Vote your values. Well, Roland, thank you so much for your time, and we're gonna be, keep an eye on the elections, and of course, anything that you need from us from the TLC, we are supporting you guys. So anything, and good luck, and keep in touch. And now
Thank
we're
you,
gonna
guys.
go to Kelvin.
I'm gonna really what we're doing is we're doing a lot of door knocking, we're doing a lot of phone calls. But one of the things that I have never changed on my stance, and that's something that really again separates me from other people, is I will never change who I am, and I will never change my positions, because my positions are based on the United States Constitution and it's based on the fabrics of society. And what we are doing is going and talk to people. A lot of people did, a lot of Republicans, they don't want to talk to the other side. They don't want to talk to Democrat Hispanics. You have to, because we are one nation under God. We the people by the people. And to get the Latinos and Latinas to come out and vote, it's beyond donations. We need people to register and vote. It's very easy to sit on your couch and send $50 or $100 to these political candidates, and it's another thing to get out there and vote. It's nothing to leave that couch, to leave your house, and go to the ballot boxes. It's another thing to go to these precincts and these town halls and casting your votes. There are 1.2 million people in District 30. 2 years ago, less than 250,000
Wow,
voted in the entire district.
that's sad.
And but what we are seeing when my team is going out and talking to people is they do plan on coming out to vote. I'd rather have people come out and vote for me than people give me donations, because donations get you so far, just like endorsements. Endorsements only get you so far. Ronald Reagan said it best when he ran is endorsements only get you so far in your political life, because at the end of the day, you need the vote. And what we are doing is relying on organizations such as TLC is to show the American people and to show the communities that you do have somebody that will bring your voice to echo in the chambers of Congress.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Kelvin, so much, and good luck. And we're gonna keep in touch, to see how's going on or how we can help you. So, Pastor Vega, your call
Thank you
to
for having me.
action.
Yep, let's all unite. Let's get out there and vote. Make sure you vote in the primary, the Republican Party. Let's go out there and be vocal. We're loud in our own communities, but it's time for us to get out and shine. We're rising up all across the country. We got to do it more here in Houston and in Texas. Latino, the shift is happening now. We need you. We need you to be a part of everything that we're doing, whether it's block walking, calling, showing up to events. Hey, we welcome everybody. We want to feed everybody when somebody comes over. So let's just get out there and link arms with individuals. You can find more about me at www.richardvega.us. That's richardvega.us. You can find all my information there. Reach out. Let's get busy. Let's work. We got a lot of work to do in local government, state, and our federal.
Thank you so much, Pastor, and we'll see you in the next events. And of course, good luck and congratulations on the hard work.
Thank you.
So I want to remind you guys, the primaries is March 1st, but of course we have early voting. It started February 14th till February 25th. So please go out and vote. Not only your voice is your vote is your voice, but vote your values.
That's right.
And this is very important. Do your homework, and you need to do your research. Google tells you everything. Just Google.
Find out, get informed, and vote.
Representing your district and go and vote. This is very important. We love this country, and we are in this country for a reason. So participate and don't let somebody else to choose for you. Just go out and vote. It's very important. And this country give you the opportunity to go in early voting. You can go and vote anywhere. And that's so easy. Don't wait just to March 1st. You just go and vote in the early voting because, it's more flexible. We all busy. So it's very important to go and vote. And here at TLC, we're going to keep you updating with everything that is going on in the primaries. And Bobby, we have Leadership Latino.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited about it, folks. If you're interested in getting involved, I've been doing this. I'm so fortunate to work with Orlando and Andrea and the rest of the folks at Texas Latino Conservatives. We have this conference, Leadership Latino. I've been down to Harlingen. We were in San Antonio together, and now we're going to El Paso on January 29th. And this is a perfect opportunity for conservatives who are Hispanic that might not know how to get involved. Just show up. And we teach you. There's great instructors. We talked about the media training earlier, but this is how you can get involved as a candidate or as a campaign staff or just an activist to get out there, be more active on social media or going door to door or anything that you can do to help spread the conservative message. It's Leadership Latino, January 29th, all day Saturday in El Paso.
At
I
no
can't
cost.
wait. At no cost. That's right.
Just
That's
go
right.
visit us at TexasLatinoConservatives.com, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. You're going to find the link for Leadership Latino. Just register. That's the only thing you need to do. Just register. It's at no cost. It's free. Completely free. So we're going to be there all day long. We're going to guide you from A to Z, from the moment that you register to run for office, how to deal with media, how to deal with all the things, because it's not easy. It's a complicated landfill for running for office. So we just give you all the information that you need with people that is been in business for years, a lot of experience, and that's priceless.
Yep, it's good stuff.
Let's take advantage. And I'm going to see you over there in El
definitely.
Paso. We're going to get there on Friday to get ready for Saturday all day long. And then we're coming back to Houston on Sunday. So register, TexasLatinoConservatives.com, and also become a member. It's only $35 a year. And Bobby, thank you so much.
Thanks, I enjoyed it.
It was amazing. I enjoyed
Great candidates we heard from today.
Excellent, excellent. I love it, and I love the stories, and I love the fact that they don't have a political background.
Right.
They just love this country as we do.
Right, and they're ready to get involved and make a difference, and that's what it's all about.
Correct. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching us, and los veo el próximo miércoles. See you next Wednesday.
See you.